the sports card market has many great arguments to support it. But the best one to me, I think, is that the market is perfectly dynamic.
Let's get started. So we got the guys from Card Ladder back, and we're going to be talking about all things Card Ladder 2.0. So, I mean, we've had Chris Hodge on. We've had Josh on. Today we're going to have Josh and his kids on, and we're going to have some fun. It's going to be playtime. So
I love it. It's my favorite, man.
If I understand correctly, so Card Ladder 1.0 was vetted data, right? Card Ladder 2.0 is an insane kind of, index of all sales history, eBay, all across the map. And you know what's interesting? I've been using the sales history more than I've been using the ladder the last few weeks. And I think a lot of people still don't know about that feature, right? I see Josh kind of posting on his Instagram, use this feature. This will help you. This is vetted data. There's a ton of data here. So I want to welcome Chris. I want to welcome Josh. It's Friday evening. There's no better way to kind of cap the show off with what I called the true American story, the true American, these guys are the American. Like when I moved here from Ukraine, I apologize, Cage. I won't go this route. We were promised like the American dream, right? You work your way up and you go to corporate America, one route. Or you could start your business, take a risk, believe in yourself. You guys are the American dream, so I'm not bullshitting. It's honest from the heart. Congratulations on all the success. We wish you nothing more than more success in the future. Welcome, guys, to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Dude, that was awesome. I'm pumped up for this intro, man. I want to go start a business. Well, this is amazing.
Right, and Andrew, I didn't know that your heritage is Ukrainian, so I'm sure this is not an easy time for you, bud. I just want to acknowledge it. I don't really have anything to offer except that, but sorry for what you're going through, man.
I appreciate it, man, but today's my first day back in the States. I was living in Mexico for a minute. It's first day back in the States. My mom's here, healthy. My sister's healthy. My dad's healthy. So it's very sad, but it's just I also feel very lucky as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a reminder of how fucking lucky I am. And maybe today's episode will also inspire other people because you know what's cool about your story, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of Card Ladder and all that stuff.
Are we done with Ukraine? I have to say thank you to Ukraine. Ukraine cured COVID. Okay, you can go ahead and do whatever you need to do.
You're a moron. But
it's gone.
You might inspire people because what's cool about the hobby, and in 2020, people were trading cards, and you could basically throw a dart and make money on any card. But when it got harder to make money on cards, people started looking at how can I start a business? How can I add value back to the marketplace? Because I really love this industry, and I want to stay in it long term. So, I mean, is it okay if we go back to the origin story? Because I don't think we've ever had you guys on together. What's the origin story? How did Chris and Josh meet? And Christina. Shout out Christina.
Okay, I'll tell how me and Christina met, and then Josh can tell how the Voltron formed.
Are you going to lie to us and tell us that Josh wasn't there when you and Christina met? We all know better, so let's see what you make up now.
All right, let's see. Was Josh there? Christina and I met in the fall of 2013 because we were both non-traditional students, meaning old, both students in our mid-20s who went back to college. And so we were part of the same student group on campus, and that's how Christina and I met. And now I'll let Josh tell the tale about
we met on blowout forums. There was a thread going, basically like a witch hunt against somebody, and Chris and I were the only ones in the thread standing up and trying to figure out the facts. And I was like, hey, this guy's not an idiot. I should message him. And then we just started talking, and Christina just DM'd me that how romantic he told that story. It was pretty inspiring. He met her at school.
Yeah. Sorry to get all poetic on you guys.
That's an amazing partnership dynamic, by the way. Chris and Christina are there. Chris tells the story. Christina doesn't like how it's told, so instead she's professional enough to not yell at him in the background in the middle of the show. So instead she DMs Josh so that he can say how disappointed she is. I love it. This is Card Ladder. We can just wrap the show right there, folks. The inner workings of Card Ladder on full display. I love it. That's great.
And you guys just became buddies, like best friends, like you talk every day, just from that one kind of like the spark.
Yeah, it was pretty natural, I'd say.
Yeah,
pretty organic.
What was like the skill? Like, what did you pick up? And you're like, this guy gets it, Chris, for Josh, and then same question, Josh to Chris.
Oh well, dude. I mean, we're talking a point in time when the only content about basketball on the internet was being made about basketball cards on the internet was being made by Josh. So I really liked Cardboard Chronicles, and it was like in the early episodes. I think I was like episode 14 or something like that. Or somewhere in that range, but I just liked his content. I just liked what he had to say on the forums, and I think we also both like wanted something better than the forum environment for the hobby. So I think that was what where we really connected, was like we can maybe make the hobby a little bit better place than just the forum vibe. And but yeah, I mean, I thought he was a great content creator. That was like this. If there was a skill, it was that like I felt like his channel was hugely important to the growth of the hobby, especially during those like 2017, 2018, 2019 years. I thought Cardboard Chronicles was like a very, very important part of the development of the hobby.
Christina's pointing out that you talked more about me than you did about her.
Hobby romance.
She's not on this interview. If she wants to be discussed at length, let her come on and do interview.
Do you wanna have Christina show up also? I mean, I have no problem with that.
You want to put your head in? No, she says no.
What? I mean,
now she's shy. Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, more the merrier. We'd love to have her in, but maybe you know what we'll do? Maybe we'll just have her she can have her own episode, right? Have her own episode, and she
make
can
sure you ask her.
She can fact check this whole thing.
Yes, and
he
she
lied
can tell
here.
the story.
He lied here. He lied here. You know, it'd be great. All right, Josh, I got a quick question on where we just went. Put yourself back in the shoes. It doesn't have to be 2013 when you met there. It doesn't have to be 15, 17, whatever it is when you guys were, where'd you meet? Tinder? What was the Blowout. Sorry. When you guys met online. Sorry, Josh. Josh is gonna kick my ass. You know, Josh is a lot bigger than you think, and so is Chris. Like, I'm a big dude, but I meet these guys. I'm like, I'm gonna be nicer. These guys kick my ass. Anyway,
everybody thinks we're like 5'5" or something.
Everybody thinks you're tiny. Everybody thinks you're tiny. You're not tiny. These guys are not tiny, guys. They are imposing figures. So be nice. Anyway, so put yourself back in the shoes when you met, when you started talking, when you said, all right, I'm gonna make this content, make this, and look forward to where we are right now. Are you amazed at the change in both the hobby, where we've gotten to in such a short time, but more importantly, in what you guys have been able to do? Is this like, oh man, beyond the wildest dreams? Or are you like, you know what? I knew we were going to do this, and we still have, X, Y, and Z that we're still going to tackle. Either one, go for it.
Well, from like the hobby perspective, I'm not surprised. If you watch some of my earlier episodes, and Chris and I probably talked about it too, like we just felt there was a real genuine interest in the space, and there was a lot of people similar to us that were coming into money around our age. And it was like, man, we all collected as kids and we all have money now. This just kind of feels like it makes a lot of sense. And the cards that were being made were still really cool looking. And we thought that the hobby itself had evolved quite a bit since we left. And it wasn't just like left for dead. There was still like a vibrant space there to be enjoyed. And also like, we just kind of felt like it, like I said, it was very genuine. Everyone we met and everyone was like pretty pure in collecting back then. And there was just like a lot of Michael Jordan collectors, LeBron collectors, Kobe. And it was just like a very, genuine, fun space to be in. So from that perspective, I'm not surprised. The card ladder stuff though. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we ever thought it would get to be this point. I mean, we're both like pretty hardworking, smart guys. So we probably bet on ourselves enough to know it would work out to some extent. But to this much, we probably owe a lot of that just to the overall growth of the hobby.
All right, Josh, so I can't let you just stop there. I'm not going to let Chris talk because whatever he says, Christina's just going to correct. Anyway, so the underpinning there, before we get to the card ladder, I asked, hey, did you see us getting here? And what you answered was the first couple years. You answered of, I wasn't surprised. There was a lot of people coming in with money. They were pure, right? They were doing it for the right reasons. They had some money and they were Jordan collectors, LeBron collectors. What you said without saying it was maybe it didn't see the last couple of years where it wasn't so pure in your eyes. And I think we got to get into that, right? Because this is one of your touch points, right? What is it about flippers or investors or impure, half-bloods, muggles? I don't know what we're going to use, what we're going to call them now, but the folks that have come in the hobby the last couple of years, is your fear that they could potentially do more damage than good because they're going to be here for a quick flip, burn people, and leave? Is your fear that it takes some of the credibility out of the hobby? Talk to me about that, because I think more than anything, Josh, I mean, you're the ladder guy. You guys are card ladder, right? And you're a PMG guy, and you know more about cards than probably, anyone. You've forgotten more about cards than anyone else probably in the world. But I think what your calling card now is you are the champion of the collector, right? I think if people ask, hey, what's Josh about? They'd say he's sticking up for the collector and he's not in favor of the flipper or investor. So how did we get there?
Yeah, but I'm also pretty aware to know that the investors and flippers are what made my collection worth more than it was back in those years. So I'm not impervious to that. I understand how that works.
Yep.
And they play a key role. I guess from the perspective of what you're saying, I do feel like there is a need for someone to stick up for the collector, even though I also really enjoy the financial side of it. I get the flipping side of it. I like to talk about it. I think it's a fun, interesting topic. We made an app about the stock market of cards, basically. We track the financial side of it. Card Ladder is not about which cards to be collecting necessarily. It's also about the stats and the data. So we understand that side of it as well. I guess I just don't feel like there's enough conversation around why we've gotten to this point. And in my opinion, we got to this point on the backs of collectors who actually want to buy these things. In a collectibles space, if you don't have people actually collecting it and wanting to own it in their possession, the whole thing just comes crashing down. If everyone's just flipping to each other, it's just a Ponzi scheme. You're just eventually that's going to break down when people get scared and it's, they fear that their money's going to be gone. They're just going to sell and get out. Whereas cards, there is always going to be a huge group of people that no matter what happens around it, they're still going to pay money to buy these cards.
And it's because of the longevity of it, right? I mean, everything that's collectible had to start somewhere, right? We can look at other asset classes, tickets people are talking about now. I mean, you throw NFTs in, we don't have to, but obviously NFTs could come crashing down the way you did. I mean, use a great example. I put myself through law school on Beanie Babies, and those came crashing down because ultimately, like you say, that was an asset class that when push came to shove, nobody actually wanted these at the valuation that they were at. It's a great example of just something that there was a market created for them and people were just dumping them on each other. And that didn't last, right? But you don't know what's going to last and what's not going to last until you have to.
I don't have to prove that for cards because we have decades of data. We have sets from 1952 that stand on their own. We have historical sales going back to 2004 that held their own during massive recessions in 2008. So I know that cards can withstand a lot of this stuff. This other stuff, it's the same way that I approach, investing in individual athletes. I don't need to guess whether Michael Jordan's going to be a good player. He already played. I already know what happened. It's already been complete. I don't know what's going to happen to Jason Tatum, so I'm just more nervous about dropping $50,000 on a Jason Tatum.
So is there something to be said, though, about the excitement, the rush, the fun of it, investing in that, prospecting in some of the young ones? There's more risk reward. I mean, you talk about the platform we built. It's a stock market for cards, right? I mean, stock brokers will tell you, let's look at your risk profile. Let's see how old you are. When do you want to retire? What do you want to put in your portfolio, right? There's nothing wrong, I think, about having a little bit of both, right?
Yeah, but cards are my risky investment. I also have really, really boring 401ks and really boring, real estate investments. So cards are my risky one. And so if I'm going to be in cards, I'm going to pick the least risky inside of cards.
Okay. I mean, it's fair. Do you see more or less investors, flippers, you name it now, than you did last year or the year before? And what do you see for the future of that, right? Because obviously, if this is a talking point and you want to talk about it, we have the show. And I said before we even aired, when we had you guys on last time, it's the most listened to episode we've ever had. And I imagine this is probably going to break records for us also because people love you guys. And I think it's because of this, Josh, that people love you guys. Even if you have to take a stand that might not be the mainstream, you stick with your guns, and because of who you are, you support it. So I want to hear the support. I want to hear what you think. Right? Where are we going? Are flippers gone next year? Are they going to move on to something else? You know, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Let me tag in Chris. He
Shoot.
hasn't said anything in a while.
By the way, I think this is super valuable. You're on mute, Chris, but like the way I was raised to learn was through debate. And honestly, our show 614 episodes in. And Cage, you and I debate stuff all the time. We just had a Tim Duncan versus Giannis debate the other day where you bashed your head and gave yourself a concussion.
Made my point, right?
I hope you guys appreciate the fact that this conversation, we'll get into Card Ladder 2.0 and all the features, but I think it's important to understand why the two people that you're watching here created Card Ladder.
So, but more importantly, I don't think it's a debate at all, because I don't think anything Josh just said is wrong. You know, this isn't point counterpoint where I would say, okay, I disagree with every single thing you've said. Right now, I agree with him. I'm just curious if his standpoint is I'm more pro collector, right? But also acknowledging that a lot of the card values have gone up because of these new entrants into the market, because of these people flipping beneath the collectors, basically. Well, then what does that mean going forward? Do the flippers stay? And if they go, does that mean those cards come down? Like, what do you, because he's been good. Both of these guys have been really good at predictive modeling.
What about educating flippers? Like, why don't we even talk about that? Like, I came in, I was a flipper, and I just bought my first vintage card because I'm kind of sick of staying up at night and worrying.
You took the shortcut. That's where I was leading these guys. But
my apologies.
No, it's okay. It's all right. Go ahead, guys. Let's hear it, Chris. What do you got?
Andrew, how did you, what was the thought process that got you to the point where you're at today? And what card is that, by the way? I didn't quite see what card it was.
So my first Bob the Builder. No, Bob Clemente. It's a little bit glary, really nicely centered, 1961 tops, Bob Clemente, PSA 6. But the reason was it became exceedingly difficult to figure out not only which player to invest in Modern, also which card to invest in Modern. So that became exceedingly difficult. Vintage, you have, this is your guy, this is the card you buy of him, right? So that was one. Two, all of these swings where like one game the guy's putting up 45 or 50 points or throwing 3 touchdowns, and then the next game he's injured. And you're like, what? This is so awkward. I don't know what to do anymore. Now I have to wait till next season. Do I sell for a loss? It was just a lot more of figuring out how to make money versus figuring out how to make relationships and connections. So those were kind of the 3 things I would say.
Well, makes a lot of sense to me. And congrats on the pickup, by the way.
I feel like I kissed my first girlfriend.
Wow, there's a podcast title.
They said that to me in the store too. Like that wasn't even mine. I don't want to take credit for it. Knuckleball Sports, Bucks County.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we want to opine any further on the sort of investor flipper?
Well, if you don't answer about that, I'm taking you right into the metaverse next. So you tell me where you want to go.
Oh, well, man.
I'm just playing. Listen, I actually, you know what? We beat the shit out of this one. I guess the point is, the hobby changes. And I think there's room for a bunch of folks. I think you're all acknowledging that. And, maybe what we can do is try to educate some of these flippers into why they should take some of the money they're making flipping and become a collector, enjoy the hobby, find something, whether it's a 1961 Clemente or something else like that. And then maybe those flippers become collectors. Who the hell knows?
Well, they have, right? They have.
Yeah,
they've started buying ultra high end, ultra rare, and they've stopped buying, the stuff from 2 years ago. So like you asked if there's more investors flippers today. I would say that the number is probably about the same. They just they've gotten smarter and they've just shifted away from the stuff that doesn't make any sense to attempt to flip when there's 10,000 of them, and they've moved it into rare things.
Yeah, here's an anecdote that I think paves the path forward for us as a hobby. So Michael Saylor appeared on Patrick Bet-David's podcast a week or two ago, or maybe a little while longer than that. And Patrick Bet-David was probing him about why did he choose to invest in Bitcoin in the summer of 2020. And Michael Saylor's answer, in short, was he found the research and work of modern day intellectuals and how their work was grounded in the underground school of thought known as Austrian economics, which has always sort of been interwoven with the Bitcoin movement. Austrian economics is a ruggedly libertarian approach to economics. It believes that all value is subjective, and there's also like moral implications to Austrian economics. They believe that government force is inherently wrong, it's immoral, and so like they build systems of thought and ways of organizing societies and governments that avoid having to have the government force you to do anything. It's a radically libertarian philosophy. And so it always gravitated to Bitcoin because Bitcoin was the counterpoint to a fiat currency that's enforced on some level by government decree, and they really embrace this idea and a lot of the principles that underpinned Bitcoin. So Saylor found works by these intellectuals who were explaining the rationale behind Bitcoin and about why Bitcoin is a good hedge against inflation, why Bitcoin should remain strong even when monetary policy and inflation are causing the stock market to be volatile or it's influencing more traditional markets. He said he looked at the way the monetary supply was expanding. He looked at monetary policy that was going to be enacted over the next few years, and he just said, this just seems like a really smart hedge, and really smart people are endorsing it and making really good arguments for it. And so the thing that convinced Saylor to do Bitcoin rather than art, rather than real estate, because he told Patrick Bet-David he looked at real estate, he looked at art, but the thing that sold him on Bitcoin was the fact that there were these intellectuals, the Austrian school of economists, who supported it. And so Saylor, being an intellectual guy himself, said, I am going to go with this. I can read this. The reasoning makes sense. The rationale makes sense. Any questions that I have, there is an answer to it. Even if I don't love it, there's a lot of thought and theory supporting this. Whereas in these other markets, it's just not there. If I wanted to go read scholarly works about, the investing in art or whatever, he just wasn't able to find it. It wasn't readily accessible for him. Okay, so in cards, to bring this full circle, that's the next.
I was waiting. I mean, I want to go to Austria soon, but we're going to bring it to cards eventually. Because what I thought what you were going to say was,
I think it's super relevant because
there are no smart people in cards. They're all idiots. So we can't sell your cards. That's what I thought you were going.
There are certain faces that people see when they first get into the hobby, and that shapes their understanding of what our industry and our market is. And if our industry and our market seems like, nothing but infomercials and pump and dumping and just kind of these get rich quick schemes, and it seems or childish, it just, it's never going to attract the Michael Saylor. It's never going to bring in people like that. The only people it's going to successfully recruit are people who have a history with it, who loved it as kids and have nostalgic connection to it, of which there are many. And it's going to bring in people who are just very adventurous and say, let me give this a try, this strange world of cards. But the thing that takes us to the next level is the production of some scholarly works that can convince somebody like a Michael Saylor that we do have a durable, roughly stable market, and it's been there for many decades, and it's evolved over time, and it's evolved incrementally. And, once upon a time, there was pretty much no data. And then there was the Beckett Price Guide. And then there was the Beckett Media Empire. And then came the grading companies. And then came, different, eBay came. And then people use eBay comps. And then people started aggregating those. And then these other marketplaces popped up. Like, the history of all this stuff has to be told. And the theories of why the sports card market is amazing have to be told. The sports card market has many great arguments to support it. But the best one to me, I think, is that the market is perfectly dynamic. The sports card market is always fluctuating because it's tied to real world sports outcomes. So when a Jason Tatum has a breakout season and his market goes up 50%, and the Boston Celtics have a lot of people excited since the new year, when Tatum prices go up, there's a domino effect. The next domino that falls is people say, well, okay, is Ja Morant properly priced to him? How should this be working out? And then the next domino to fall is, well, are LeBron James and Kobe Bryant properly priced? And then the next domino to fall is, well, is Michael Jordan and, Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain, are they properly priced relative to this? And then there's constantly adjustments being made. And every time a new player does something great, it slightly changes the history of the sport. And then every time a Giannis comes around and gets 2 MVPs in 3 years and looks like he might get 3 MVPs in 4 years and cracks the top 20 all time, ESPN had him as the 17th greatest player of all time. That resets everything. That reorients the history of the sport. But then you look at you say, man, Giannis is amazing. I'm so excited about him. But Hakeem Olajuwon is even higher. Hakeem Olajuwon is number 12 on this list. Shaquille O'Neal is number 10 on this list. Tim Duncan is number 8 on this list. So it has the domino effect of creating and sparking renewed interest constantly in all facets of the sport, not just the modern player. The modern player is the catalyst, but the domino falls all the way back to the historical greats. And then those historical greats markets adjust, and then it puts the modern players markets into a new context. And all along the way, money is moving around and people are making money and they're reallocating money, they're reinvesting money. That's just one facet of why this market is incredible. It has the dynamism that other financial markets wish they had, that they try to gin up with earnings reports and other reports of that measure. We have it. We have nonstop news infusing our industry with excitement on a day-to-day basis. That's just one example, but somebody needs to reduce this stuff to a text and develop a scholarly work that supports our industry.
Like, call it the Cardboard Chronicles, maybe.
There you
Oh
go.
yeah, that's the idea, right? It's like you're documenting the people who were at it from the ground floor and why they're here. It's the interesting question to me is always why. And Chris is asking that in his talking there. He's asking why are we here? And then, once you learn the why and how this has occurred, you can start to predict what's going to happen in the future. And so the next step is like, we know why it started in 2016, 2015. We know what gave it the fuel with the investors and flippers. Now, how do we like bring all that together? How do we mature it, and how do we organize it and make it more efficient?
So what are we doing well right now, and what do we need to add, subtract to get there? I guess would be the next question. Just if we're following that logic, the chain of logic. I mean, it could go to both of you guys, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking for like what's the positive we've done,
I think he asked you what inning we're in, Josh.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, kind of.
We have a lot of content creators who tell stories. We have a lot of narratives. I mean, today's culture is very narrative driven. You brought up Michael Saylor, but Peter Schiff makes a very compelling argument for gold.
Yeah. I mean, gold's been clobbered over the last. It's like the only thing that hasn't 5x'd in the last 10 years, I think, is gold.
But the 10 years before that, it did extremely well from 2000 to 2010. So this was what's called a consolidation period. And gold as money is as ancient as time. So yeah, it's really hard. I think we don't give each other enough grace in time. This is a very tough financial system to figure out, a collision of old art and collectibles and then new with digital currency. It's very difficult to figure out. It's very narrative driven.
Yeah. But the thing that you're trying to find is like, what's the next thing to put my money in to make more money? And the thing that we're saying is that
or not lose money. At least not lose money as well. Sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes total sense. And so we just think of cards as like, we don't really think of cards in that manner. It's more of like, I like the cards and I like the hobby and I like the space. So I know I'm going to put my money into this. And now it's like, how within this space do I best use my money and make sure that it's going to be best for me in my future and that I'm not hamstringing myself long term. And then to answer your question about the content, I think it just needs to get a little bit more serious. A little bit more focused on how to best serve everybody in the hobby, how to like bring the proper knowledge and understanding of what's going to be best for everyone long term, and less focus on sort of these short term, like, hey, what's the next PMG? Like that's just this hot topic of like, what's this next PMG? It's something that's hitting on, people's excitement levels, but is it something that actually is going to keep people long term? Is there actually like value in everyone flooding towards certified or whatever the next Marvel PMG is? Or is it better served to take a step back and like actually teach people about the origins of the original PMGs, why they are held in such high regard relative to these new things, and how can we help people find what is their variation of the PMG, but not necessarily like the hype around it? Like what keeps you in the hobby? What's like your PMG that you would love to collect and that you would want to stay in that for a long time?
So I got a story. I wasn't going to tell you guys this because it sounds really bad, and Christina's going to be mad at me. But the other night I stayed on. I was in the comment section for like 4 hours. The crossover, and it must have been just that I was staring at Josh and Chris for as long as I was. I mean, it's just the two of them. One head, the other head.
The number one show is Ken Golden and Shine ripping Flawless, but right behind that, neck and neck, is the crossover with their numbers. Sorry, Case.
So I'm watching it. You get these two handsome guys on there. Anything else, Andrew?
Well, there's a third handsome guy, Mr. Cage Lawyer.
No, but I'm not on the show. I'm just in the comments. And
you're just dying to say. You're dying to say something.
Yeah, every once in a while, Chris will laugh, and I'm like, I got him with that one. I can see Josh getting mad that Chris is laughing and that I'm in the chat. He's trying to find a way to throw me out. But anyway, hours. I'm looking at just these two handsome men. I went to sleep that night, and I had a dream. I dreamt about you guys. Christina, I'm sorry. I dreamt about your man. Shut your mouth. So I had a dream, and here was my dream. And you guys tell me if there's anything wrong about this, okay? There was a show. It was overseas. I don't know exactly where it was. But you guys were there, and you were making the rounds, and you were introducing yourself, and people were coming up to you guys, and you guys were signing autographs. You were meeting people, saying hi. It was people you hadn't met before because, like I said, it was overseas. It was some sort of overseas expansion of Card Ladder. And, just like a royal welcome. Because it was overseas, and people were just coming up to you left and right, and hi, answering questions. Josh was talking about being a collector. Chris was talking about how awesome Christina was. It was this whole great thing, right? It was great. And you there was a show, and I don't know if I was your cameraman. I have no idea, but I was there. I was watching this whole thing, right? And Chris walked up to a table, and because it was overseas, he was shocked to see that there were like 6 Christian McCaffrey 1-of-1s on the table. And he bought every one of them. He said, okay, here's my money. Bought all of them, right? And Josh saw a bunch of cards he hadn't seen before. They were, 90s basketball inserts. I think it was some Chris Paul's, right? And he was so excited he hadn't seen, because here he was, this is an overseas show. And he had no idea, right? And he bought every one of those. And then you guys went into this back room, and you met investors. I don't know if it's German investors, whatever. And these guys were investing in Card Ladder, right? And you guys, it was like the most amazing thing in the world. You guys were shaking hands, high-fiving each other. I was pretending to do a high five, but you didn't see me. I don't know. I was invisible. I have no idea. And it was like the greatest day ever for you guys. I don't know why the hell I'm dreaming this, right? So I wake up and I say, I got to ask these guys when I have them on. Would that be awesome for you guys if that happened in real life? Like, you would enjoy that, right? Like, that sounds like a pretty good day for you, right? Yeah, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty normal day.
It's a normal day, right? 1-of-1s, Christian McCaffrey's, the whole deal. Now,
business deals, shaking hands
Chris,
with Germans.
Yep. This sounds great, right? This is like, besides the day you met Christina while you were students, no details, no romance, no nothing. Just we were students, we were old, we were students, I met. Done. Yep. Sorry, Christina. He's not a romantic, clearly. But besides that very romantic day, this would be ranking right up there in like one of the days you'd like to repeat. McCaffrey's all over the place, meeting people across the pond that you never met before. You're making deals, you're buying cards. Sounds great, right?
Well, when you said 6 Christian McCaffrey 1-of-1s, that certainly made it a very good day. But then when you said that you were there,
oh, even better. Yeah, amazing. And you know who else was there? Shy Wei, Ken. You named 10 people. They were all there. They're all overseas. People who don't even like to fly were there. Now, it sounds like a great day. You guys both loved it. Now, let me ask you, does it get worse if you have to take your Oculus off afterwards?
Okay, there it is.
Because that's what I think the metaverse is that day for you guys. You don't have to leave your couch. You have your goggles on. Mm-hmm. You went to a show in Germany. Josh saw cards he wouldn't have otherwise seen because he was in Germany, even though he didn't have to leave his kids. Mm-hmm. You were there. You bought McCaffrey's. You didn't have to leave your couch. All the transactions were done nice and easy on an online wallet. Connect the wallet. You guys got to meet investors in Germany who are now investing in Card Ladder, and you never had to get off your couch.
I can do that right now without getting off my couch, and I don't need a headset.
And you really able to walk around virtually the show.
It's called email and
DM. Email is black and white letters. You were actually there.
That's all I want. I don't want a fake reality. If I want the real reality, I'll go live it myself.
Yeah, but I got Josh thinking. I do. I got you thinking. So I'm not saying it's
yeah.
going too far, and I'm not saying this can be done now, but that's not too far in the future. And think about how, if you're really as altruistic as you come on in the first half an hour about growing the hobby, think about how you shrink the world with something like that. How you're able to basically have a worldwide community of people who are able to meet the great Chris and Josh of Card Ladder virtually. And you don't have to leave your house.
Here's the thing, Cage. If you're talking about making Zoom meetings even more pretty, great. Who's against that?
But it's a little more than a Zoom meeting. You'd have to walk around with your stuff. I'm talking about like actually being. So one of my former employers had
better Zoom meeting sounds great. If I'm in a Zoom meeting, I can see more.
I mean, you're poo-pooing it, calling it a Zoom meeting, but wouldn't it be a Zoom meeting on steroids? Wouldn't you have the ability to now walk around this show and have payment?
Yeah.
You ever pay for anything through Zoom? You have just an automatic person sees you, scans you, you're right there, and you paid for it, and the card's coming your way. You don't even have to do anything. That seems like a pretty integrated kind of, next level stuff. I'm not saying we're plugged into the Matrix now. I'm not saying we lost free will. I'm saying if you wanted to, and that show charges you $10 to virtually be there, and maybe at that point in time, there's an iPad that's on a computer that you get to steer around, sort of like a third play. I have no idea, because I've seen that before, by the way, from meetings at one of my old jobs. They had iPads on like robots, and they walk around, you get an iPad, the person's actually there. It's a little spooky. But I don't know what it's going to be. I'm not as smart as you guys. I'm definitely not as smart as people who are making this. But can't you envision a situation in the not so distant future where you're able to go to a card show?
It's
not the one I'm talking about.
Zoom on steroids. There's
a Zoom meeting doesn't exist. Go ahead, Josh.
I feel like
okay.
Let Josh talk.
I have so many things to say.
Nice.
What you're describing is a technological advance, correct? You're talking about like improved technologies. You're talking about, some sort of like visual world that you're living in through your eyes, or it's an immersive world, right? You're talking about the metaverse.
Well, not the world in and of itself, right? But I mean, it wouldn't have to be a separate world.
My follow-up question is, what the fuck does that have to do with NFTs and crypto? Like,
who said
make that? Well, that's the path we're headed.
No, but I didn't say anything about NFTs or crypto.
Well, that's the connection people want to make, is that like somehow
the
technology of well, then this is a collector's show. Like, we're talking about collectibles, so like the connection has to be made somewhere. Otherwise, we're just talking about technology.
I made a card show, right? I made it. You're a collector. You're going to collect cards at a card show.
You made Zoom a little bit better. Well done.
It's not Zoom. You're poo-pooing it. You're not.
No,
it's not
Zoom. I'm putting it in its proper context. Technology has evolved very incrementally since the advent of social media. If the next incremental advent is that people are able to have more immersive experiences when interacting with each other by virtue of a headset, I think that's plausible. Who wouldn't?
And linking financial transactions in it as well. Which is, by the way,
there we go. We're almost there. We're almost there. So you made that little bridge. You built that little bridge for me of crypto and NFTs to this new made-up world.
I mean, your wallet could be anything. It could be crypto in there. Obviously, that's what it is now.
NFTs and crypto are just a way for corporations to be able to control the financial aspect of the metaverse and corner you into this little world now where they can control everything you do through crypto and follow your transactions. It's just the same thing. It's not actually decentralized. Like, one company, Facebook, is going to control the actual metaverse, and they're going to start deciding what your currency inside of the metaverse is. So now we're talking about a big corporate matrix plug in the back of your head.
No, I mean, I think Facebook changing it into Meta was the last act of a desperate man. I don't think Facebook's gonna have any control over the actual metaverse. There's going to be multiple. There's a whole bunch of them, and they'll all be bridged together. But I don't want to take it down that route. I just wanted to tell you my take on it, because we had a fun episode on this. I don't think anybody knows what the metaverse means. I think there's 100 people, you're probably going to get 85 different definitions of it. And I guess my thought is that if we're really taking small as collectors, maybe technology can help you guys build a better mousetrap.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, definitely, man.
A better Zoom would be great. These extra tools would be awesome.
I love you guys.
You know what I love about Patrick Bet-David's show, Chris, is, and Joe Rogan in this, we live in such a headline world. I think we need more longer form conversations, because this stuff is so complex. Like, this conversation, I mean, this is not like most of our episodes. This is in depth. I mean, there's 6 to 7 different topics here, right? Educating collectors. What is the metaverse? Does the metaverse benefit people? right? Crypto. I mean, there's so many different topics. Is it that you guys? I mean, I guess I'll start with you, Josh and Chris. Is it that you're against the metaverse, crypto, and NFTs? And I don't think that's the right way to ask it. I'm not trying to like set you up. Is it that you think like we're not there yet? It's very much of please. I want to clarify for
sure.
people listening.
Well, you said at the beginning of the show that you're alluding to the fact that you enjoy sort of the potential like disagreement between the four of us on certain topics. I also enjoy that. I think this is fun for me, like going back and forth, and I get to speak passionately. Like, you know, you asked why I looked upset when the show started. I just wanted to get started and start arguing. Like that's what I come to the show to start talking and giving my opinions. It's fun for me. No, I think that I really enjoy being the skeptic in this if I had to choose a role of being the skeptic towards something that's, you know, kind of being made up on the fly in the last year or so, I'd prefer to be on the side of the skeptic. It's just a more fun role for me to fill. And the other side is that I do actually have a pretty deep knowledge of like technologies and how they work, and I know how Zoom works. I know how the internet works. And so I like to think I know what the technology behind crypto and metaverse actually is. And so I try to speak to it from that perspective and maybe like pour a little bit of cold water on it where people want to say like what it's going to be when they're actually not sure how the technology behind it actually works. And so not to say that I understand what it's going to be because it doesn't exist yet in a lot of cases, but I at least have the foundation to know that the blockchain is not this like crazy complicated, like futuristic technology. It's been around for a long time. It's just like a pretty fancy database. And so like metaverse, to Chris's point, is kind of just like a fancy Zoom. Like it's just like a more immersive, like better technology. And yes, the technology will keep getting better. I just really want people to understand that the NFT and crypto world, as it pertains to this and as it relates to this, is a completely separate thing. It's not about the technology. It's really just about like corporations trying to cash in on this and people trying to flip and make money. It's a really separate thing. Will we see a separate currency inside of the metaverse? Probably, but we have no idea what it is because the person who's created this metaverse, that's the chosen one, hasn't created that currency yet because the metaverse for it doesn't exist yet. So we don't know what it is going to be. So in the meantime, if you can make money flipping NFTs, if you can make money flipping cards, you enjoy pieces of it, I think that's great. But I'm just not going to like project what the technology is going to be because we just don't have it yet.
I think it's very fair. I mean, it's very fair. We don't. And by the way, there are a million different metaverses coming up, and each one of them has their own little, you know, crypto. Everyone has their own currency. So you're right.
No one actually lives in the metaverse. I mean,
right.
I don't know a single person who wears the Oculus. Not one single person. Not even my young cousins. But digital collectibles, and I hate the word NFTs. I think digital collectibles, if we just forget about their price for a second, because they're going to have a place. Like we kind of dig digital collectibles. They make things easier. It's easier to sell and it's easier to buy. Instant ownership transfer. You don't have to have it shipped through a courier. Where do you guys stand? I'll go to you, Chris, and Josh. You guys, I'd love to hear from both of you. Where do you stand on digital collectibles? And we'll break them into two categories. We have the ones that just about anyone can create, right? Like anyone could just literally, if you guys go to OpenSea, you could click 7 buttons and in 20 minutes you have your own collectible that someone could literally buy. You go that way. And then we can go licensed, Vive, Topshop, Panini Direct. And more so if we could talk not about the value, because I agree, man. I mean, the values became astronomical. People started dumping money into it because they thought tomorrow they could sell it for more. No different than Cage when you bought your Trae Young Silver Prism, a week later sold it for double, and then the guy thought he was going to sell for double again. So if we forget value for a second, where do you guys stand on that? The non-licensed and the licensed?
Yeah, I mean, I can only answer this question from my point of view.
Sure.
So
well, we're not asking for Christina's, otherwise we'd have her on the show.
What's amazing? What's so amazing about what we do is your point of view is a lot of people's point of view. And it's like that, you know how like in class is like, don't be scared to raise your hand and ask a question because more than likely other people have that question too.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, but look, just I'm couching it that way so that, you know, we don't try to later say, well, what about somebody else's point of view? Like I respect that point of view, but I can only give you mine. And my point of view is this: first of all, I'm a huge stakeholder in the outcome of the sports card industry. I've invested my life into it. And so I care very deeply about this industry. I care about protecting it. I care about spreading the positive aspects of it. I care about weeding out the bad actors in it. I care about calling out shenanigans and BS, and so on and so forth. I really care about this hobby. It's my lifeblood. And so in this hobby, you know, for as that hobbyist, as a stakeholder in the outcomes of this industry, I don't care about art. I don't care about the market for Renaissance art. I don't care about the market for modern art, for postmodern art. I'll go to a museum from time to time and enjoy it. I don't care about dinosaur bones and exhibits that are set up to display recently unearthed Tyrannosaurus Rex ribs. I don't care about the real estate market. I think that, you know, that's over there. I think that market's a little crazy, but from what I've looked at it very briefly, but I'm not worried about that market. That's completely fine. That's a
He doesn't
really
care about a lot of stuff. Josh just got a message from Christina saying, I wonder if he's going to say he cares about me. I mean, he doesn't care about anything. This guy cares about nothing.
Look, but the reason why I care about, and the reason why I have an opinion on NFTs and crypto is, it's, you know, you ever watch football, and in football, you know, after the play, the one lineman punches the other lineman in the face, and then the one who got punched gets back up and shoves the other one down.
And
the
the
one
flag
who
for the
got
second one. Yep. The second guy always gets caught.
flag.
Yep.
I'm the second guy here, Cage and Andrew. I'm the guy who got pushed down by people who made card accounts in the hobby that says, I'm so-and-so sports cards, and I'm a collector, and I'm very much into this collecting space, and I want to be part of the sports card community. And then, after about a year or 2 years, suddenly this new, shinier, more attractive object has captivated this subset of these people who once were very high on sports cards. They built up a large audience of sports card aficionados who came to them to get sports card content. And then they pivot and they start promoting markets specifically as superior investments to sports cards with the hope, and I can't blame them for this, but this is their perspective. I'm giving you mine. From my perspective, they're excited about this new thing, and they're trying to convert as much of their audience that they built because of how great of a community sports cards are. They are trying to convert that sports card community, as much of it as they can, into the new fad that they're very excited about. And that, make no mistake about it, is a threat to the outcomes of the sports card industry, because that is a zero-sum game. If a dollar that otherwise would have been spent on cards gets spent on an NFT instead, then they have successfully taken a dollar out of the ecosystem for cards. And that problem can actually compound itself, because if somebody sells a card for $100,000 and moves that money into NFTs, not only have we lost $100,000, but we've also, from our card ecosystem, we've also lost somebody who owned that card at $100,000 who was a bidder for that card. So the price and the value of that card may have dropped as well. So we might have actually lost $120,000 worth of value by this person's actions, because the value of the card went down, our market cap went down. So that's my issue with NFTs and with cryptocurrencies. And that's why when I get the chance, I will combat their narratives and say, guess what? Bitcoin is down 30% over the last year. Bitcoin is no longer a hedge against inflation. The US dollar is a better store of value than Bitcoin is. The US dollar is now a hedge against Bitcoin.
But Chris, what's the threat?
The US dollar is less inflationary than Bitcoin is.
What's the threat of Bitcoin and digital collectibles that's not there with real estate or any of these other ones you said you don't care about?
The only difference, and that's why I went on my diatribe about it, but let me just make it super crystal clear. The only difference is NFTs and crypto are being put in my face by sports card accounts, and real estate and art are not.
Bingo.
And they're yelling.
Yeah, it's like
virtually.
_cards account is not showing me the latest real estate listings. If they did, I would be saying the same thing about real estate.
I mean, how many accounts are we talking about?
Oh, there's so many. I've had to mute like 30 of them. I've muted like 30 accounts in the last year. They're because they just convert and like try to pitch me on all their NFTs.
Cage, we were guilty of it at one point as well. I mean, we try to toe the line, but what about this, guys? So are you guys gamblers by any chance? Like, did you bet on sports or play poker?
A little bit.
In the early 2000s, gambling, poker, it was like over there. Like, I remember I got suspended from school for gambling for 5 days. no lie, I'm a degen through and through. I used to bet on like these paper sheets where you'd circle and take a. So it was crazy, but that industry's bigger now. Now you have daily fantasy. You have what is it, Jock Bet? Remember we had fun with that. We had
Jock Market.
Jock Market. I mean, you have daily fantasy. You have fantasy football. You have Jock Market. You have cards. You have so many different ways to speculate now.
Yeah.
Is it so? The whole pie has gotten bigger. I agree with you. I know what you're saying. Like, there's this subset of people that keep jumping from shiny speculative thing to the next shiny speculative thing.
Yeah, but shouldn't you be happy? Shouldn't it be glass half full that those guys at least came and talked about cards at least for a little while and built up a card community and brought people in, and maybe some of their community stays in cards? I mean, aren't you looking at it backwards? Let's take us for example, right? I mean, maybe we brought in a couple of thousand people who built up cards and are new to the hobby with cards. And let's say a couple people, and by the way, I don't think we are what you're talking about, but in the event that we are, we give a card play every goddamn day. And I've probably been collecting cards longer than both of you guys. And yeah, I took a break to sell fucking Beanie Babies. Well, shit, I don't give a fuck. Go right ahead. Shit on me. I don't tell you the truth. People listen to us. I want to make them money. I want to provide value for them. And at a time, there was value in Top Shot. There was value in NFTs. So I'm not going to not tell them that. That's ridiculous. Now, of course, it's short-lived. And we told them it was short-lived. And we came back to cards. But I think if really the narrative that we're going to spin now is, I'm mad, I got to hit back, I got to be anti-Bitcoin because 30 or 40 accounts came into the hobby quickly, generated a huge following, brought more people into cards, and now some of their card followers might be leaving to go to NFTs. Well, what about the 60 or 80% of them that stayed in cards that were developed by them as a card account? I mean, I get it, man. I'm not going to convince you on this, and I don't even give a shit about Bitcoin.
I think both sides are valuable in that conversation. I think that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, we're talking about two different situations. If the situation is somebody makes card content, builds a whole new audience, brings in hundreds or thousands of people who never thought about cards before, then they pivot to some other topic because the audience is there for them. It's not there for the card content. And then they end up growing the space by a few hundred or a few thousand people. Perfect. That's a terrific outcome. That's kind of like what Zero Cool is doing with their new release, is they're trying to make it accessible to the VFriends advocates and people who are into digital collectibles. It's doing the reverse game. If I was an NFT guy, I'd be upset at VFriends physical trading cards.
Yes.
Personally.
So you know what I love about this?
Yeah. People think we're gonna hate VFriends cards, and they're gonna be surprised to know that we don't hate it. I think, like Chris just said, it's an interesting way for us to rug pull the NFT people and say, look, physical cards are better. Now they're pushing physical cards on you, and you're gonna enjoy it.
It's a valid point, right? But more importantly, it's there's an intertwine, right? I mean, some people went from physical to digital. And you go digital. Oh wow, the NFT guys left. Maybe this is a way to bring more people into cards. I mean, but you know what's funny, guys? And I want to blow it up because there's like 4 or 5 people. Plus, I got to go get my son in a second. But 4 or 5 people who have reached out to me really quickly about the VFriends cards.
Do you hear my Russian family arguing about NFTs?
No, but I'm sure they are. But 4 or 5 people come out and they basically were like, "Oh, I can't believe you guys were so like welcoming to Josh Luber, and I can't believe you're, why would VFriend cards? What's wrong with you? Zero cool? Yeah, it's not cool at all. It's zero. I mean, like, I got messages today like you wouldn't believe. And the funny thing is that the vast majority of the people who message me are people who are that, as vehemently opposed as they were to this, they're that dug in on another alternate asset. Whether it's digital cards or Panini or NFTs or whatever, Panini digital. And I'm like, wait, how could you be so close-minded about this thing that 90% of people seem to be against, but you're in the 10% on this? Like, open your eyes, be a little more open-minded. I think this conversation, should open people's eyes about that. Do your thing. You know what I mean? Do your thing. And I got to tell you, I love my little dream about you guys. Obviously, that was made up. If I dream about you guys, you won't know about it because I will commit suicide. But besides that is, I think we can have a conversation about it, right? I think that's really the key, right? I love where you guys come from. And the best part about it is, and to anybody listening to this, realize that who we're talking to here, these are the standard bearers for the hobby. They're in the position they're in for a reason, right? They obviously give a shit about the outcome of the hobby, not today, not tomorrow, next week, but for years to come, right? So that's why I take it serious. I mean, I agree with everything these guys say, but they are coming from the right place. They have the right intentions. So with that, anything we can do to help further that, you want me to write a chapter in the Cardboard Chronicles about the history of cards? I am there. It's like the Federalist Papers, man.
It's okay.
I could be John
guys.
Jennings.
I apologize. I messed this up. I was 20 minutes late, so we would have more time. If we could hang a little bit. I know you got to go run get Ian.
Yeah, I can go off camera.
If you can.
Yeah.
I don't think people would mind. This is on me 100%.
My apologies,
I have a good
guys. My kid's the last one at
answer.
school. But
Please.
shoot.
I have a good answer for your initial question, Andrew, as well. So Chris is going to hold that flag and he's going to hold that line for us, and I love that stance, and that's kind of what makes us friends. Is that he's just like a very loyal person.
He's
and
a
I know
watchdog,
he's never
right?
He's the most loyal person I've ever met, and I know exactly what I'm getting from him. I don't have to worry about it. I'm never going to get a text from him that says, "Hey, what do you think about this NFT?" I don't have to ever worry about that. He's going to stand his ground. My stance on it is much, much simpler, and it's a much more boring answer. I'm 33 years old. I like about 5 things, and I hate almost everything else. And so people just keep peppering me with questions about something. I'm going to tell you that I don't like it. And that's all it is. Like, it's not that I'm closed-minded to it. I'm sure that the people who are in the NFT space, I'm sure there's a vibrant community of well-intentioned, great people. And I'm sure that crypto has great intentions to actually like change the world, and it could be a great technology. It could improve the banking system. I'm sure that's there. I personally just have no interest in it, and I just don't want to talk about it. And it's like, literally, you see my show, you're like, why is he always drinking Truly? That's like the only drink that I don't hate that's alcoholic. I just drink the one drink. I have my 3 friends. I like looking at pieces of paper that have shiny gold colors on them. I watch my basketball games. I'm going to be a really great old person, because I'm just going to like be really grumpy and like my 5 things.
Shout my best buddies, not my best buddy, but one of my best buddies from high school. If he's watching, Ray Horn, man, dude, you remind me so much of him. And I think there's beauty in that. In a lot of ways, I feel oftentimes like a cat chasing my tail. And you at the same time, and I admire Ray for this. He lives where he always lived. He likes what he's always liked. Duke, JJ Redick, coaching kids at basketball, and then coming home and watching the games. But let me ask you, so we'll get into Card Ladder 2.0. Guys, we haven't done it justice. I fucking apologize for that. But we're going to get to it, I promise. Stay with me. Gary. Why does Gary have such a visceral reaction from a small subset of loud people in the hobby?
You're asking like, why do people not like him?
Yeah, I don't think that they don't like him. He gets this reaction out of people, right? He's brought people into NFTs, and he's brought people into cards, and he's brought people into like old school, like going to flea markets. I don't know if you guys remember that. You used to have like a mall, and people would set up literally tables, and you go to flea markets. That used to be the thing. He's made people money. He hasn't pumped and dumped. He might have pumped. There hasn't been a dump. People have believed in him and bought in, have done well, but still collectors, like really, really like people you've seen that bought out cards, like high $100,000 cards. They still don't. They think he has some kind of ulterior motives, and he may. What do you guys think from where you sit as to influencers and Gary specific and their impact on the hobby?
Yeah, I think I'll go quick on Gary, and then maybe Chris can talk about influencers at large. Gary is just like a very, very energetic, very sort of, attention demanding person. And when someone gets up close to you that way and they start demanding your attention, they're very loud and boisterous. What are we supposed to do other than sort of react back with our opinions towards him, just as loudly? And I think you're just kind of seeing a lot of that. It's like, why does Kevin Durant get so much hate? Because he's like asking for hate by like trolling people on Twitter and always constantly being at people's faces on the internet. You're going to get reactions out of people eventually. I think a lot of that's just kind of like what I think about Gary. I think he's great. Honestly, I've listened to Gary's content for a long time. I listened to him before I got into cards because I really enjoyed his takes on, sort of like anti-establishment, working hard and like building out your own brand. I thought that was always really great. It's like he kind of is living the American dream as well and building your own personality and working hard at what you love. I think that's the messaging behind that is fantastic. And he's brought a lot of people into cards. He seems very genuine about enjoying the cards. He's collected a lot. He buys a lot of stuff he enjoys. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But if you ask me my opinion on him involved with NFTs, like I said, I just don't care for it. I don't enjoy it.
if I'm an avid Card Ladder 1.0 user, what should I look out for on Card Ladder 2.0 that I haven't been?
Well, first of all, you're awesome for that and for saying that, Andrew. And we appreciate you. And by the way, what a fun episode, right? What an interesting, fun dialogue.
I hope so, guys. We try, man. Sometimes, you want to have you want to have a great episode, but sometimes you don't know where they're going to go. We really try. I'll say that to our listeners. We do. We show up every day. So do these guys. These guys have a difficult job because they show up and create content, but they also run a business and run technology and answer customer questions and all that. So, we're just doing the best we can.
Well, you're doing a nice job, and we appreciate you having us on, and we appreciate the diversity of viewpoints. So on the on Card Ladder 2.0 versus 1.0, the difference is 1.0. Then there was 1.1, there was 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. These things are all happening in the background, and then when we flipped over to 2.0. Okay, but the product has been slowly getting better month after month, week after week. But the thing that crystallizes 2.0 as the new era of the Card Ladder experience is that we've subtly readjusted the focus of the site to be oriented around our sales history feature. Whereas before, our site was focused on the ladder, which features verified cards where there's active monitoring of every sale that goes on of the card historically and going into the future. Every sale is vetted. And we still maintain that database, and we actually are growing it at a faster pace than we ever have. We now have 5 researchers who are on the team in addition to the 2 original ones. So the traditional ladder database is growing and expanding. But the sales history feature is a treasure trove. If a card sold online in the last 20 years, roughly speaking, it's very likely in that sales history database, whether it was on Golden, whether it was on eBay, whether it was on Robert Edward, whether it was on Heritage, whether it was on Leland, whether it was on MySlabs. If a card sold in the last 20 years, it's probably one of those 30 million data points that's in Card Ladder's sales history feature. And from within the sales history feature, you can find a sale, and then you can get the historical information about that sale, platform, price, date, etc. You can, if you own that card, you can add it to your collection and get updated price tracking information, because the software that Josh and our team on the software side built is able to detect the player in the card, tie that player to either that player's market index or one of the other Card Ladder indexes that most appropriately fits, and price model the price of that card, not only today, but every day forward going into the future. So we've literally built the first system in card database tracking history that literally tracks any card that's ever sold before. And we're talking 30 million data points. We're talking somewhere between 3 to 5 million cards. That's Card Ladder 2.0. Card Ladder 2.0 is the treasure trove of data. And we've been slowly developing and nurturing the sales history feature. And now we got it refined into a point to where we wanted it to be front and center in front of Card Ladder customers, and for them to see and understand the power that we've unleashed through sales history.
So I have 2 questions, right? And I apologize for running off, but school closes. Otherwise, my kid would be stuck in school, for the weekend, and I apologize. He would love it. He would love it. It'd be like an adventure for him, but, my wife would probably kill me. But so anyway, yeah, she definitely would kill me if I left the kid at school over the whole weekend, definitely. So here's my 2 questions. Number 1, and one might be for Josh, and then I'll let you either one of you answer. The one for Josh is this. I think I might have made a mistake on an episode of the podcast. We talk about the Card Ladder a lot on our podcast. We do. Because we give a lot of plays. We talk about cards, and, it used to be, let me go look at the eBay sales history, or remember 130 point, which is about as valuable now as, I don't know, me growing a 4th nose. Anyway, so this, right? So it's not valuable at all, right? So here's the fun. I think I mentioned one of the cool things that I saw was, let's talk about that Mahomes, right? Where there's shield bidding. And, 7,500, 7,500. And then there was one that was 6,100. And 7,500, 7,500. And there was one that was 6,100. And you guys did a good job on your story, and you posted, hey, like, this is shield, this is shield, this is shield. Here's the right one. This is chill. Here's the right one. And Card Ladder is allowing us to do this. And I think I might have made the misstatement on an episode like, hey, Card Ladder, they're figuring out a way to do this manually. They're like, it's like they figured out a way to do this and they're pulling out the shield stuff. And I don't know the tech. I mean, if I did, I'd build Card Ladder myself, but I didn't. So I don't understand this stuff. So Josh, talk to me about that. What are you doing around those shield bid ones? How are you figuring out what data is real, what's clean? Is it manual? Is it a bit of manual, a little bit of tech? How does that work? Because that's a huge feature. I mean, people are shady as it gets, and they use those fake like 7,500. I go to a show, and it's like, I want to buy a Mahomes. Well, the last 10 sold for 7,500. But if you have the ability to say, no, they didn't, that's bullshit sales. Look at what Card Ladder is saying. It's really only 6,100. That's, I'm thinking the value that's providing to the consumer.
Yeah. Well, you might be disappointed to know that I had nothing to do with any of that. That was all Chris and Christina. So those are verified by those guys. I have nothing to do with it. The only part
is it a manual dig?
No, the tech part of it is that if there is a price change and fluctuation greater than 25% in either direction, the tech flags it for the team. And we also flag if the seller's feedback is really low. And there's other like subtle flags that we give to the team when they're looking through that stuff. But at that point, it's completely handed off to Chris and Christina to make those calls. And so when Chris made those stories, it's based on like his own experience looking at them that night. And he had a lot of information right in front of him. So he's able to make great content.
That makes sense. I was wondering why all of the recent crazy prices on Maxi Kleber were sustained, like they were actually validated by Card Ladder. Now I know. Now I get it. I understand why.
Well, so can I tell people how I use Card Ladder? I mean, I use it today. So I think of it like as a pricing, as a shopper guide, so to speak. So like today I went to an LCS, right? And there's so many cards. Some are graded, some are not. So first I just go to the sales history and just try to get a ballpark. Where does this card play? Right? Vintage, it's a lot harder because it's way more range. But like, where does this card play? MPJ base. Okay, it's $5 now. Okay, this guy, Bob. I still can't get over Bob.
Bob Clemente.
Okay,
you can call him Roberto. Everybody else in the world does.
Right. This much it's raw. This much it's graded. Okay, let's go to the index now. Right. Let's go to the index and see what's this card been doing over a period of time. Okay, next one. Baseball vintage is going up. It's been the talk of the town. Let's see what football vintage is doing. What's Walter Payton? What's Jim Brown? So for me, what's been really cool is having all of that under one roof, right? All in one place makes buying a lot easier, right? It's not like you're not like saying buy this or buy that. You're giving people the tools. Here's a screwdriver when you need to use a screwdriver. Here's a hammer when you need to use a hammer. And it's helped, man. It makes life a lot easier. That's how I use Card Ladder. I'm curious.
I was wrong, I guess. I said to Josh, he'd answer my question too. So that's how Andrew uses Card Ladder. If we were starting out in this, maybe there's 3 people in the world who don't use Card Ladder. Andrew uses it. All right. I think everyone in the hobby uses it. But let's just say there are 3 people out there who don't. And let's not get into business disparagement. And let's not compare Card Ladder to any other specific tools. All right. But just by saying, what is it that Card Ladder does that nobody else does? What is it if you could talk to those 3 remaining people on a deserted island that we just rescued, and they're clearly avid card collectors, they're going to come back here and they're going to start collecting. Why should they use Card Ladder as their tool? Again, everybody else in the world already uses it. You got to make a sales pitch to these 3 people.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. Well, first of all, were these like castaways, like Tom Hanks? Then
yes, okay. That's exactly what they were. They built. They had a volleyball, and the volleyball it sailed away to Denver.
Yeah, so for those people, we recuperate them and get them back to good nutrition and good health. And then we bring them into cards because obviously it's the best market to be involved in. And then we say, look, if you want to, do cards and do it right, and you want to have a Michael Saylor level of confidence in the card industry, the way that Saylor has that confidence in Bitcoin, Card Ladder is a part of that. We're giving you historically vetted, realistic, accurate data.
And the other guys give you Michael Scott level of sophistication. We're
not disparaging businesses.
No business disparagement.
No business disparagement here. So, yeah, I mean that's one big part of our bread and butter. But the bigger part too is like, and this is the sales pitch for the hobby too. Is this hobby is fun, and using Card Ladder is fun. You know, it's very serious, and there's research aspects to it too. But you know, my personal use case for Card Ladder is just loading pictures of my collection into it, putting in what I paid, tying it to the index for the particular players that I purchased, or using some of the more sophisticated tools to get a more accurate pricing estimate, because we have a lot of sophisticated tools now for doing that. And then just checking my collection every day and just looking at my Christian McCaffreys and scrolling the feed and looking at them and thinking about them. And because I can't look at the McCaffreys all the time, but I can enjoy them from my Card Ladder experience all the time. And Cage, you had this grin on your face like you're gonna say something about NFTs or digital collectibles right now. So
You're saying it for me. You're saying it for me.
Let's just go ahead.
Let's just skip it. We'll skip over it.
Somehow Card Ladder is a sales pitch for NFTs, but yeah.
Well,
I mean,
can I tell you
By
actually
the way,
what it is?
I'm gonna pitch you little ladders, like golden ladders, like rainbow ladders. What do you think, Josh? Little ladder.
Card
NFTs.
Ladder deserves
No.
that would be the biggest NFT in the world.
Card Ladder deserves more credit than you realize, because there's a company called OpenSea, which we go on every day, and they're out of San Francisco. You're talking about the highest of the high engineers, 15 to 20, probably now 30 working for them. And what they built is what you guys have built. That is what OpenSea is.
We've got a pretty good engineer ourselves.
Right.
You should ask Chris how much I get off on building as much as I have versus people that have built things with 15 people. It's a big point of enjoyment for me.
It is.
It's a real testament, because it's difficult, right? There's a lot of bells and whistles. So I think Cage was smiling because we do go on OpenSea when we have NFTs, and we check, how's this one doing? What are people saying about it? You build this connect, and you guys built that. You literally have built that for cards, and it does make it more fun. It does make it more fun to see how your cards are doing. It does just go in and look at it like, I bought that one, I own that. It is fun. You build an emotional connection with the shit you put money into.
Totally.
Yeah, totally.
You guys didn't ask me, but can I tell you what I think of metaverse, crypto, all that stuff?
No.
Please. Oh, yeah, I want your opinion.
He thinks it's Giannis.
Okay.
The best in the NBA.
I think it's been difficult to build communities on the internet. I think because if you try to build a community on the internet, you have 99% of really good actors, and then you have 1-2% that are really loud that kind of come in and try to act like cancers, right? Whether that's in the comments on Instagram and Facebook, they try to troll, right? Where did that word trolls come from? When you put your own money into something, now you're less likely to troll, right? Your money, your investments in it. So what we did with Lucas Tigers, and it was ambitious, and we didn't know what we were going to do exactly, but we knew why we were doing it. We wanted to kind of unify and create a community. So we created Lucas Tigers NFTs, and everyone who owns a Lucas Tiger NFT, it's sort of like this digital country club, right? Where we all have a common interest of sports cards. We all have a common interest of, we want to make money. We want to talk about sports. We want to debate Giannis over Tim Duncan. We want to help each other out. I have a release of product at Target in Wisconsin. We don't have that in Minnesota, but hey, I'll pick it up for you and I'll send it to you, right? So you start to build this community digitally. And now us as the creators are able to layer on benefits, right? So we say, hey, anyone who bought a Tiger, we just got an awesome partnership. Why don't we do a little reward program? Anyone who owns a Tiger, here's $95 back. Or, hey, guys, we wouldn't be here. And we mean this when we say this. We wouldn't be where we are without our listeners. Who the fuck would want to sponsor our show if we didn't have listeners? So SGC comes to us and says, we want to sponsor you guys. Like, all right, well, we are taking less money and we're okay. Take a step back, take 3 steps forward. Could you do this? Could you guys throw in 50 free grading submissions every month for our community? Now, anyone who has a Tiger gets free submissions. Hold up. There's this awesome company called Card Ladder, right? We would love to work with them. We've wanted to work with them since day one, dude. They've done amazing things. We've been friends. We've bantered for a long time. What if we could reach a deal with you guys where everyone gets access to Card Ladder Pro? And now we get into really interesting things where the people who believed in us from day one, we're able to reward them simply through just basic tech. And that's been the coolest part for me. And I don't know why no one talks about that.
Well said, Andrew. Well said, buddy. I just think that speaks to the gregarious nature of your character.
I love it.
That's funny. My grandpa's name is Grigori.
We're sending here's where I go with it, right? It's just easy. We can have a country club membership pass, right? I can have everybody's ID, I can have everybody's PayPal account and store it. Josh, I can do all that stuff. But you know what? By having this NFT now, I know who owns one, who doesn't, right? So this week, what we're gonna do, I think we're gonna send you guys. I don't know whether you have wallets taking hold of, but we'll send you each a tiger, because this week, anybody who has a tiger, you guys, anybody who has it, if you want them, if you can hold them somewhere it is, because we want to talk about the word utility and that kind of stuff, right? And we don't want to make this an NFT show. I don't know why we're going here, but just think about this for a second, right? You don't have to go to Germany and high five with me and with an Oculus on. But if I send you this thing this week when the brackets come out, I went to my LCS this week and I bought a box of Origins basketball. Pretty cool release, right? It's $400 or $500 for a box, right? No, I can open it. I can open it with Ian, I could crack it open, sell the cards. Well, instead, what I'm doing is everybody who owns a Tiger NFT, because we have their wallets, we have access, we have the Discord, everybody's going to get a bracket, and they can submit a bracket to me for free. And the person who wins the NCAA tournament is getting that box. Free. Because they own a Tiger. Haven't even announced this yet. So people listen to the episode, there you go. Right? And you guys can enter it now. Just because you have the NFT, we're going to give it to you, and you got it. There's quote-unquote utility. Is it a little gambling? Sure. But it's now an exclusivity that's provided by people who bought our Tigers. It's a small kind of subset of our listeners, and they get a benefit from it. Now, not everyone's getting a benefit, because you got to be also good at picking the NCAA tournament. Something tells me Josh is going to win, and I'm going to regret this. He picks by colored team. Maybe, I don't know what the story is, right? Yeah, I like all the red teams. No, but so, I mean, it allows us to do stuff like that, which provides an ease of use of giveaways and things like this that we just wouldn't have had if we didn't do it this way. How else would we have that all in one kind of easy location?
Allow me to flip this, and then we'll wrap with this, I promise. We've seen a few, not a lot, of companies in the hobby take advantage of their people, right? Imagine that was someone who owned an NFT, right? That company depends on, they want to have a high floor price, right? They want their NFT to have value. Well, this company's messing up. Everyone goes to rush to sell the NFT, right? I don't want to be a part of this. And now the company is financially penalized, in my opinion, for doing badly to their customers. Because right now, what is the recourse? You call the triple B? I want my card sent home.
The business bureau.
These guys are charging me $1,700 to send $200 worth of cards home. And it's taking 6 years. What am I supposed to do? You're shit out of luck. So I do believe that tech, if we can get it right, if it can avoid the tulip mania, I think it's a cool way to build a connection between your loyal fans and the mission, the business that you're building.
They're not disagreeing.
Chaos ensued. It's Friday. I've been traveling. The gentlemen here have been nothing but courteous with their time. Josh, Chris, dude, American dream, man. I said it on the episode right after you guys partnered with PSA. I stand by it. That to me is the most inspiring thing, that we can have a passion, we have an idea, but we work hard, execute, and then this still is the land. This is the land of freedom. This is the land of opportunity. So thank you for inspiring the younger generation.